Hey everyone, it's Blake. Welcome in to episode number 11 of our WWF 1992 Save in TEW 2020. This is Superstars of Wrestling for February week 2. And before we jump in, yes, I did see the big reveal. There is a new TEW game coming out in the next several weeks, and we'll talk about some options on that. You guys give me your thoughts in the comments as to what you're thinking about this new game. And I know we can't kind of transfer over the current saves that we have in TEW 2020 into that one, so we may kind of have some fun certainly playing around with that one, maybe giving a review on initial thoughts once it does come out, and maybe start a new save on that one just to kind of have as our first sort of inaugural save on the new game. But we'll keep these going because we're having some fun with these whenever I actually get to recording them. But let's jump into this edition of Superstars of Wrestling. We're still basically, a little less than 2 months away from WrestleMania, and this is kind of the grind we're going to have through Superstars. Every single show will be this heading into WrestleMania VIII. But let's start off here with Roddy Piper returning the commentary, which we know he was not on commentary last week. That was playing off the heels of Saturday night's main event, where he went and attacked Jake Roberts, who was trying to go after Elizabeth. It was Piper who made the save while Randy Savage was tied in the ropes. And so Vince McMahon does welcome Roddy Piper back to commentary, and Piper he's hot here. I mean, the hot rod is hot because, he's kind of still going off on Jake, and he tells Vince that he has heard rumors that both Jake Roberts and Randy Savage are in the building, and he said, I can't confirm it. I'm just telling you what I heard, and let me tell you, Vince, as soon as I see Jake the Snake Roberts, I'm going to have something more for him. Than what you saw at Saturday night's main event was just an appetizer, because as soon as I see him, I've got my eyes ready. I'm looking around. I'm waiting for Jake to make his way out here. So Piper on guard here, as he says that, he's kind of our informant. Roddy Piper is the locker room informant. And he says he hears that Jake and Savage are in the building. So there you go. And Vince, of course, hypes up Jack Tunney appearing tonight as he will come out and give his update on the investigation into the attack on Hulk Hogan. So 77 for the segment. Good stuff to start off with here. And then we get into a match. It is the Mounty defeating Jim Powers. He gets his man again. 439, the Quebec Crab does it. Not a bad match here, 57 overall. The Mountie just continues to do his thing. Remember, his whole thing is that he is going to rid the WWF of the trash. And he said it started with being able to do that to Coco Beware and his bird, Frankie. And so the Mountie kind of taking aim at Jim Powers here. Apparently, he's part of this trash. The Mountie is trying to rid the WWF of. So the Mountie gets a win. Unfortunately, no inset promo for the Mountie here, which I know will disappoint some people, but we have more of those to get to shortly. But all right, speaking of those, we do get one here before Shawn Michaels is in action, and I think you guys are going to enjoy who Shawn Michaels is wrestling on this edition of Superstars. But we do get the inset promo here for this one, and it is Jim the Anvil Neidhart, who is with Owen Hart. And, we know Michaels has kind of been taunting Owen after that win, which came by some nefarious means, as we know, at Saturday night's main event. And so Michaels kind of continued to taunt Owen, saying he's just a tag team wrestler, and Michaels continues to prove that he's more than that. And Neidhart now kind of taking aim at Michaels and saying that Shawn knows that he cheated to beat Owen. There's no way he could beat him straight up, and that if he has a problem with Owen, he's got a problem with the Anvil. So Jim Neidhart, just kind of making it known that if Michaels wants to get into the ring with him, he's more than welcome. So there you go. That's kind of the setup here. 59 for this one. And like I said, Shawn Michaels is in action. And yes, we're going to start many years early before their first ever match together. We're going to actually put them in their first match here back in 1992 because it is Shawn Michaels versus Chris Jericho. So we brought in Jericho here. I told you guys I was signing some of the, younger talent at this period. And we were going to bring them in, start to kind of get them acclimated to the WWF way here in 1992. And so I decided to bring in Jericho, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to put these two together here on a random edition of Superstars in February. So, of course, Shawn gets the win. In 452, the Sweet Chin Music, 58 for the match. So not quite to their 90-plus level matches that they could have, over a decade later. But still, we've got to build to that. We've got 10 years to go before we start building to those Michaels-Jericho matches. But nonetheless, it is Shawn getting the win. And as we said, clearly the new foundation, Jim Neidhart and Owen Hart, still maybe a little bit pissed off at Shawn Michaels. So here we go. All right, now we get more kind of inset promo action here is our tag team champions LOD will be in action, non-title bout. You'll see why, because the team they're facing does not deserve a tag team title shot. However, could Haku and the Barbarian deserve a tag title shot? Because we get kind of just a very quick, sort of menacing, inset interview here with Haku and the Barbarian, and they make it clear that LOD stuck their nose in the wrong people's business, and that they're coming after LOD, and they're going to take everything away from them, including those tag team championships. So, LOD, we kind of know. You guys know what we're leading to here, but Haku and the Barbarian coming after the Legion of Doom, Hawk, and Animal. 58 for the segment. And as you can see here, Haku did debut his Savage gimmick, because remember, we accidentally let Haku's contract expire. So we had to bring him back in. Luckily, his Savage gimmick gets a very good, so that helps a little bit. He's going to sell some merch. I mean, Haku should be selling some merch. His Bloodline members are selling some merch. So 58 here for this segment, and we do get into the match with LOD. A lot of 50s for this show. But, I mean, look, as we said, guys, we're trying to keep this as close to kind of the pattern as we can, and some of these matches just are not going to be great on Superstars. We're trying to really bring it with the angles to make sure we get that. Although our main event, as you'll see in a minute, it's a little bit different and should be a better match than most we're used to seeing on Superstars. But it is the LOD getting the win over Barry Horowitz and Tony DiNucci in 308 when Animal pins Tony DiNucci with the Doomsday device. He's the weakest link here, but that's okay. Hey, Barry Horowitz still bringing it. DiNucci with an arrogant heel gimmick gets adequate. We're not really too concerned with that, but it does get 52. LOD with the win, and they know they have Haku and the Barbarian hot on their heels. All right, now we get this one here, and we're going to the Event Center. I decided that we've not really used the Event Center very much, and so we're going to the Event Center here with Shawn Mooney. And this is where Mooney says a big announcement from the World Wrestling Federation and President Jack Tunney. It is official. Sid Justice will go one-on-one with The Undertaker at WrestleMania VIII. And we know we've kind of been slowly building towards, this match and everything, the fallout of the Rumble, where Sid eliminated Taker. These two have kind of gone back and forth in the different highlights we've shown from house show matches and all that with these two. And so it is made official, as you guys probably expected, Sid versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania VIII. And so Mooney makes that announcement. He looks dreadful doing it, but he does make the announcement here. I could have probably just left Mooney as, either not rated or kind of even factored him into this segment whatsoever. But we try to keep it close when we can and put everybody in there. So 67, this should have done better. But we also get an announcement from Shawn Mooney. This is kind of tied into the Event Center, we'll say, that Sid, the British Bulldog, and IRS will all be in action next week on Superstars. So that is kind of your setup there. We know Sid just announced the match with The Undertaker. The British Bulldog is, continuing to say this is the year of the Bulldog. He's been pushing that since the start of our save. And IRS, the right-hand man of Ted DiBiase, also clearly always up to something. So we'll see what these guys have in store for us next week on Superstars. 65 for this one. And as I said, this will be kind of a better main event than we're used to, because we are showing kind of the highlights, and we're showing them for a reason, of a recent match involving Ted DiBiase and Sgt Slaughter, which this did not do as well as I thought it would, to be completely honest with you. A 65. I thought this would have done better, given that these two are main eventers. But we did show kind of, this being a match between these two recently, and we'll see in a second why we showed this. But we just mentioned IRS, the right-hand man of Ted DiBiase. Well, it is DiBiase getting the win over Sgt Slaughter, and I know it's the Cobra Clutch here. Come on, right? It's just too fitting to do this, but we're not going to have Sarge submit, so we're just going to say DiBiase pinned him. We forgot to include the pinfall finish. Sure, I never thought in a million years they would make the Sarge submit here, but this game did. But blatant cheating, so you kind of have the shenanigans as usual from DiBiase and IRS. So it is DiBiase getting the win. And afterwards is when things start to pick up, because you do have DiBiase and IRS. They're not done with Slaughter. We kind of can maybe make it towards the submission. DiBiase goes to lock in the Cobra Clutch on Slaughter to keep the attack going. 65 for this one, and you guys know who's coming out. Here comes Bret the Hitman Hart, and it is Bret Hart who comes in the ring and gets a shot in on IRS. DiBiase able to retreat, and so they've been kicking and locking in the Cobra Clutch on Slaughter. Bret comes out for the save, and that's kind of why we're showing this match on Superstars, to show you that Bret Hart has not forgotten about what DiBiase is up to. And once again, whenever DiBiase and IRS retreat, It is DiBiase pulling out the cash and just saying, you see it, Brett, you know, and I've said it, everybody has a price for the $1 Million Man. So DiBiase keeps pushing that. He keeps pushing that everyone's got a price, and he keeps saying that Brett will find out soon enough what that means. So 73 here for this one. I know that some of these guys are slow burns, but you guys know, like, we're trying to really pattern it to the era, and we just have so many shows before WrestleMania VIII. And as I've said before, what's also important about that is that, every match on the card is not going to be one that is just built up to for months and months, right? That just wasn't the way it was. I think I look back at WrestleMania VIII, actually had like 5, I think, really featured sort of, big build type matches on the card. Other ones were just pretty clearly showcase matches for certain talents. So that's kind of the card that we have built right now. And so that's kind of the plan moving forward. But a lot of heat to this one, more than anything else we've done on the show. But now we get to the big segment, and 96. So finally, we're picking things up a little bit here on this one. So it is Gene Okerlund who comes out here to the stage, and this is one of your just sort of traditional stage type, kind of settings here. And he is with President Jack Tunney. And Jack Tunney makes his way out, and I know you see 2 different people here, but you'll see, we'll get to the Flair part in a second. But Flair's not out there just yet, as it is Gene Okerlund talking with Jack Tunney, and yes, we did add Hogan to the mix here to be able to get a good rating. Jack Tunney looking dreadful too, by the way. But it is Okerlund saying, President Tunney, you did say last week that you would have an update into the investigation, and you said it would involve the Nature Boy Ric Flair, the winner of the 1992 Royal Rumble, who will be one half of the WrestleMania VIII main event. And Jack Tunney says, yes, Gene, that is true. And he says, I will let you know that we have done a lot of investigating. And last week, I did say I wanted to confirm some things to make sure before I came out and gave the World Wrestling Federation fans an update into the heinous attack on Hulk Hogan at the Royal Rumble. And Tunney says, Gene, I can tell you now with 100% certainty, after crossing all the I's, dotting all the T's, checking everything we could check, I can tell you that Ric Flair did not have any hand in Hulk Hogan's attack at the Royal Rumble. And of course, Gene, Gene, the actor that he is, like, he gives this, shocking sort of face here. And, I can just see the visuals for Gene. Like, it's always a great thing. When people would catch Gene off guard, he would have the greatest sort of facial expressions and all that. And so Tunney reveals that Flair had nothing to do with this. And as he goes to continue, he says, but, Gene, I can tell you that we have learned a little bit more about what actually happened at the Royal Rumble. And before Jack Tunney can continue, here comes Ric Flair. Because Flair, is kind of coming out, shaking his head, and pointing at Jack Tunney, saying, of course, you know now that I had nothing to do with this. I've said from the beginning, Tunney, you and everybody else in the WWF have all been about delaying the inevitable, trying to keep the Nature Boy from being the world champion, when everybody knows I'm the real world champion. And so Flair just kind of pointing fingers at Tunney here, saying this is all part of him trying to delay everything, and that all this was a witch hunt for Ric Flair. And he says, finally, everybody understands that he's never been wrong about this. The WWF is trying to keep him away from everything that they don't want him to have, and that is the WWF Championship. And so Flair, again, he's kind of mocking Tunney here as if, Tunney just cleared his name, but Flair, still being Flair, saying that, hey, everyone kind of sees now that the reason everybody brought me up from the start is because everybody's trying to keep me from that WWF Championship. They were trying to find a way to keep me out of the main event at WrestleMania VIII, but that's not going to happen. And so Tunney says, yes, Mr. Flair, you are not involved. We feel confident in telling everyone that you had nothing to do with this. And so Tunney goes to continue again to give us this update that he was just hinting at. But before he can do that, 96 for the segment. Yes, we get the 100. We needed that on this show. Out of nowhere, we see someone leap into the screen. And you can also kind of visualize this, right, with Randy Savage when he just, goes mad. And all of a sudden, we see the crowd kind of buzz because they're seeing someone just sort of run and leap into the screen here. And it is the Macho Man, Randy Savage. and Savage leaps towards Flair, and then we just have Savage going at Flair, and we can hear Savage saying, "Don't you ever touch Elizabeth. Don't you ever touch her." And so we know that's because Flair put his hand on Elizabeth's shoulder while Elizabeth was basically in shock after Jake had almost come at her with the snake at Saturday night's main event before Piper made the save. And so Savage leaps after Flair, and he's just going at Flair. Tunney and Gene are just trying to do anything. The officials come running out, and they break these two up. But it is Savage who is clearly on a mission here. And as Piper said earlier, he heard that Savage was in the building. But as this is going on, we kind of hear Piper on commentary, and we see, the cameras kind of go back and forth from Savage and Flair to Piper on commentary, who is just turning, he's got his head on a swivel here because he's looking for Jake Roberts, because we heard earlier that Piper said he heard the rumor that Jake was here. And so Piper continues to turn, and he's asking Vince, "Where is he, Vince? Where is he? I know he's here." And so we keep going back and forth between Piper and, the officials breaking up Savage and Flair. But that's how we go off the air. There's no Jake the Snake Roberts, but we do go off the air with Piper trying to basically figure out where he's at. And we do have Savage trying to get at Ric Flair. And that is how we finish up this edition of Superstars. We finished with a 100 segment, exactly what we needed here. That should help the rating a little bit, although it's not going to help it a ton because the main event we know is still kind of factored into that. 79, we're going to lose some popularity. Like I said, really that 79 is the point where I'm like, as long as we stay there, that's okay. Like, we don't want to get anything like in the 75s or anything. We're going to lose popularity because we're at 81, something like that. But as long as we stay around that 79, maybe 78 range, it's not going to put us in any danger of falling below the threshold of where we are now in terms of the size. So we're okay with the 79s. Some shows will do better than I really thought DiBiase and Slaughter would do better than a 65. Those two guys are over, but just didn't happen with these two. But there you go. Some big developments. Some, again, slow moving on some other stuff. But like I said, I'm trying to keep this pretty well paced before we get to WrestleMania VIII, instead of just putting everything on the same show. And knowing too, we don't have like a Saturday night's main event before the show, so that would be helpful, to be honest with you. But it's okay. We'll make it work as we get to WrestleMania VIII. But there you go. And let's see what we get to before we wrap up. All right, so that was Superstars Wrestling. Positive show. We didn't strike gold with that one. That was okay. See if anything else going on here. George South quits. That's not good. WCW, people quitting left and right. Maybe they'll come to here. We can bring in George South. I think is a nice sort of, look, he's jobber territory, but that's okay. So we can bring in George South, perhaps. Dan Severn taking an MMA fight. Well, there you go. I'm sure he'll do okay. He seems to be okay in the MMA world. Mike Awesome has agreed to a deal with PWFG. So there you go. If you want Mike Awesome to join, let me know. All right, so mail, I accidentally clicked on that. Drug test fees, that's really all we have. Well, those drug test fees are, I feel like they're going up. All right, we've got something here. I'm trying to think of I know we don't have any contracts out, so this has to be an incident. By the way, too, Sid had an incident before we got to the show, which I know is a big surprise. But I don't remember what it was. But we did a slap on the wrist or something, and of course it negatively impacted Sid. So everybody, this locker room is just out of control. All right, let's see who this is. Any guesses? Anyone? We've already had Sid. Have we had something with Jake yet? I think we've had something with Jake, haven't we? I don't even know who else. Like, it's every week we have something. Let's see who this one is. Oh, of course. Of course it's Ric Flair. Of all the people right now that we need to, be in a position to us possibly piss off. Although you heard him. Maybe there's an incident because Ric Flair was fired up at what Jack Tunney had been, insinuating before, as though he was involved in this Hogan thing. And so maybe Flair went out and partied a little too hard after the celebration of him having his name cleared. Let's find out. Okay, so Flair is a hard drug user. Well, that's not ideal. Okay, well, he's one half of our WrestleMania main event, and at this point, I know we should be made a little bit stronger on the locker room, but we've got a main event to hold together here. So, Flair, should we give Ric Flair a stern warning? We don't want any chance of Flair walking out of the company before WrestleMania VIII. A slap on the wrist for the hard drug using. We have no risk of upsetting him, but let's go stern warning for Ric Flair. All right, Nature Boy, stern warning. So, of course, a negative impact. There's a shocker. Piper's happy. That's all that matters, right? Oh, boy. Well, there you go. By the way, Mr. Fuji's got to come back, too. We forgot we let his contract expire. So that could have been Fuji. But instead, a stern warning on Flair. Half the locker room is angry at this point. who knows? So let's see how WrestleMania 8 goes because we got a lot of upset talent from all these drug policy, kind of fines or whatever, warnings. So there you go. There was Superstars of Wrestling. Hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, be sure to like, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. And like I mentioned, we will look at some options. You guys let me know your thoughts in the comments on this new TEW game that's announced. I think it comes out late July. The official release, I think the beta comes out late July. Official release is like August 3rd or something. So we're really only a month away from that. So we'll certainly have some plans to do some stuff, some videos on the new game, looking at it, playing around with some saves. Of course, the C-verse will be interesting to see how that looks. So yeah, there's a lot of excitement, I think, regarding what we could see with that. But we will keep like this save going and some of the others as well. But there'll be it'll take a while for other mods, I would assume, to be made for this new game. And so yeah, who knows how it all plays out. But again, guys, I appreciate you watching as always. Let me know your thoughts on the show. And on the next episode of WWF 1992 Save, it will be Superstars of Wrestling for February Week 3.